Here is a question that should not have two answers. Does Germany need workers or not? For 20 years, the answer was treated as settled. Germany said it over and over to anyone listening. It was short of people to do the work. Engineers, nurses, technicians, skilled hands of nearly every kind. The message never wavered, and it was urgent. And then, in 2026, the same country started cutting jobs. By the 100,000. A country that says it's short of workers, putting workers out the door. Both things true at the same time. That doesn't add up. And when something doesn't add up, it isn't an accident, it's a case. Name's cold. I worked this one the only way I know how. I followed the evidence. Every case starts with the story everyone already believes. So I started there because most of it checks out. Germany is old, the median age is past 45. A large share of the country is over 50, and comparatively few are children. The generation born in the post-war boom, the baby boomers, is reaching retirement now. Over the next 12 years or so, around 19.5 million people are set to leave the workforce. The number coming in to replace them is closer to 12.5 million. That's a hole of roughly 7 million people. A hole that size doesn't fill itself. It reaches the pensions too. The system runs pay-as-you-go. Today's workers cover today's retirees. In the 1960s, about 6 workers paid in for every retiree. Today it's closer to 2. So the obvious story says, Germany has a long-term worker shortage. Train more, recruit from abroad, close the file. For years, that's where everyone stopped reading. Then 2026 walked in, and the story stopped holding together. Because while that slow demographic story was unfolding, something faster hit the economy head-on. The car industry took it worst. Volkswagen announced plans to cut tens of thousands of jobs. Bosch and ThyssenKrupp followed. Across 2025, German industry shed around 124,000 jobs, and the automotive sector alone lost about 50,000. By early 2026, the number of unemployed people in Germany had climbed above 3 million and stayed there. Then a second blow and a newer one. In the global tech sector, around 80,000 jobs were cut in the first 3 months of 2026. Close to half were attributed to artificial intelligence and automation. Work that used to take a team began taking far fewer hands. And the evidence turned up where you'd least expect it, in the complaints. The IFO Institute runs Germany's most watched business survey. It asks companies one blunt question: are you struggling to find staff? In late 2025, 25.8% said yes. By early 2026, 22.7%, a 5-year low. On the surface, that reads like the shortage easing. More layoffs, fewer firms complaining, case closed. But I've worked enough files to know, when the answer looks that easy, somebody's missing something. So I kept reading. Here's what the evidence actually showed. The shortage hadn't vanished. It was never one single thing to begin with. It was a mismatch between the workers who are free and the jobs that are open. Look at both sides at once. On one side, around 2.7 million people unemployed on average in 2024. On the other, hundreds of thousands of skilled positions standing empty, about 369,000 in 2025, because no suitable candidate applied. And here's the figure that breaks the case open. Of the skilled workers who were unemployed, only about 1 in 4 were even looking for work in the fields that actually had shortages. Both sides true, same country, same moment, because they don't overlap. The unemployed workers and the open jobs aren't in the same industries, the same regions, or the same skill sets. The losses pile up in heavy industry under strain: cars, paper, textiles. The shortages sit somewhere else: construction, electrical trades, nursing and elderly care, medicine, software. And the skills don't transfer on command. A laid-off automotive engineer doesn't become a nurse. A textile worker doesn't become an electrician overnight. Retraining takes years, so the two sides rarely meet. Geography makes it worse. The shortages are often deepest where fewest people want to move. In thinly populated rural districts, a large share of skilled vacancies draw no suitable applicant, and around 7 in 10 unfilled doctor posts are rural. There's one more twist, and it's a hard one. Age. Germany warns daily about losing older workers to retirement, yet plenty of experienced people over 50 can't get hired at all. Experienced workers with no job and jobs with no applicant in the same country at the same time. At this point, I did what you do when a case won't sit still. I went to the archives and I pulled an old file, because 70 years ago, Germany had a labor case too. The exact opposite of this one. In the 1950s, West Germany entered what they called the Wirtschaftswunder, the economic miracle. Rebuilding after the war, industry expanded at remarkable speed, and by the mid-1950s, the economy was running close to full employment. Back then, the shortage was a shortage of almost any hands at all. In the most dynamic regions, fewer than 2% of adult men were out of work. What was holding growth back wasn't demand, it was people. The gap got wider after 1961 when the Berlin Wall cut off the steady flow of workers who'd been coming from the east. So Germany recruited, directly and at scale. Starting with Italy in 1955, then Spain and Greece, then Turkey in 1961, and later Yugoslavia, it signed a run of agreements to bring in guest workers, the Gastarbeiter. These were mostly lower and semi-skilled jobs in manufacturing, mining, and construction, and the numbers were large. By 1973, foreign workers topped 2.5 million, roughly 12% of the industrial workforce. Now lay the two files side by side. That's where it gets interesting. In the 50s and 60s, the demand was broad, the economy was booming and simply needed volume. Large numbers of workers for labor-hungry industries that could absorb every one of them. In 2026, the demand is narrow. The economy isn't booming, it's under strain. The need isn't for volume, but for the specific skills in specific places, and the industries that once soaked up workers by the million are now the ones letting them go. And there's a difference underneath both. In the post-war decades, Germany was young, a broad base of working-age people, far more workers than retirees. Today that base has narrowed, and the ratio of workers to retirees has slipped from about 6-to-1 toward 2-to-1. So I won't tell you one era was simply better than the other. The evidence doesn't say that. They're different cases. The 50s and 60s was about finding enough people for an economy racing ahead, and mass recruitment fit it. 2026 is about matching exact skills to exact gaps inside an economy that's shrinking in some corners while it starves in others, and you don't close a mismatch by opening the doors wider. Which brings me back to the present and to what the evidence actually says: no more, no less. The layoffs of 2026 are real. Industrial jobs are down, unemployment sits above 3 million, and fewer firms report trouble hiring than a year ago. And at the same time, the deeper pressure hasn't moved. The boomers are still retiring on schedule. The population is still top-heavy. Hundreds of thousands of skilled posts are still empty. Two forces running on two different clocks. One is fast and loud and on every front page. The other is slow, quiet, and mostly already decided, fixed by the size of the generations that are already born. The German Economic Institute projects Germany could be short around 5 million skilled workers by 2030. So here's where the case stands. Germany is laying workers off in some sectors and regions while leaving skilled jobs unfilled in others. An aging workforce and a near-term downturn in the same country on the same calendar. The shortage and the layoffs were never opposites. They're two different parts of the same labor market. 70 years ago, the job was finding enough people for an economy that was racing ahead. Today, the people in the work are drifting into different places. That's the evidence. That's where it sits.